Welcome everyone to week number 1 in Biology 120 lab. This week is all about an introduction to science. I'm sure you've had a science class before, so I know that some of this is repetitive, but it will remind you about what the scientific process is like. And we're going to get into the course, you're going to get your lab kit, we're going to get started this week. So let's see what we've got going on. Hang on. Okay, first of all, get that lab kit. If you don't have it ordered, order it right away. You're going to need it. You're going to need it the first week. So once you get your lab kit, it came to me fairly quickly, like within 2 days, I think. But when you get your lab kit, go to your lab kit list, which is under the module introduction, module 1 introduction, and make sure that you have received everything that you need to have. This is important because sometimes something will be missing. So do look at your lab kit list to make sure you have everything. Next, go into OpenStax and find the 2nd edition biology textbook. This is going to be your reference book for anything that you need during this term for this particular course. And I hope that you're also taking Biology 120 lecture, because the lecture really does go along with the labs every week. And so what you're learning about in genetics in lecture transfers over to what we're looking at in lab. Save this location. This is a free online textbook. It is searchable by any kind of term. So do save that as a reference for this course. All right, next, introduce yourself in the discussion section. So tell us something about you. What are your interests? Where do you live? What's your family like? Anything. Let us know what your major is and what your career goals are. What do you expect to do with your degree once you earn your degree? Also answer the question that's in there about what is your biggest obstacle in the course and what's one possible solution to this, or one thing that you're going to do that helps you overcome the obstacle. And if you'll notice in the discussion section, I also put an obstacle for myself. So take a look at that. Your initial post is due by Thursday night, midnight, and your response posts to 2 classmates are due by Sunday night. So don't forget to do that. Okay, also take a look at your lab safety manual. Read through it. Read through the whole thing. It doesn't take that long. And sign your lab safety agreement as instructed in the lab, in Lab 1. Take the safety quiz. You'll notice that these 2 items are not graded, but you still have to do them. So take the safety quiz, and hopefully you're going to pass that. All right, and then we get to the meat of week 1. You have 2 labs to do. One is on graphing, and the other one is an actual experiment that you do. This is going to take you a while to do both of these. It takes me a while to do them. And I know how to graph. I know how to use Excel. I know how to do experiments. I've done these experiments before, and it still takes me some time. So just realize when it tells you times on there, to 20 minutes to set up, 30 minutes to do the experiment or whatever, that's a minimum amount of time. So make sure you don't leave this till the last minute. So complete the lab on graphing. You do some manual graphing. You also graph with your computer. It's easy to use Excel for this, but if you don't have Excel, there are so many free graphing software packages out there. So all you have to do is search for one. If you don't have Excel, you don't have to use Excel. But Excel is very common to use everywhere, even in the business world. You're going to turn in 1 Word document for your lab report. And your lab report is a separate entity. It is not the instructions. You're going to use the graph paper that's in the lab instructions, but you're going to turn in 1 Word document. Follow the instructions, and I'll tell you in just a second where you can find those lab report forms. Okay? Then next, you're going to perform the plop plop fizz fizz experiment and complete that lab report. So what the heck, where did they come up with plop, plop, fizz, fizz? You're going to use Alka-Seltzer tablets that are effervescent in water. That means they bubble when you put them in water. And it was a very, very common stomach treatment, digestive treatment for decades now. And it's still out there. I'm going to put a link in the announcements to a silly little commercial from a long time ago, and you'll see where we get that term plop, plop, fizz, fizz, because that's what Alka-Seltzer sound makes when you drop in the tablets into water. So you're going to do this experiment. You're going to use different temperatures of water to see what happens to the time that it takes for the tablets to dissolve. And you're going to complete that lab report, another lab report. So you're going to have 2 lab reports to turn in for week number 1. All right, then also look at the final project information. That the first time anything will be due for the final project will be in Module 3, which is week 3. You go to the Ask a Biologist website and take a look at those experiments that they have. They're online, or you can actually do some of them if you order them in time, but take a look at those. There are 4 different suggested experiments that you can do. One has to do with nerves. So, for example, it's to determine how many pain sensors you have in different parts of your body. So if you think about that for a second, where do you think you have the most pain receptors on your body? Well, you got a lot in your face, but also your fingertips. Oh my goodness. So yesterday I had to have a little spot on my skin removed on my thigh after I went to my dermatologist. That did not hurt one bit, but just imagine how that would have hurt if she had taken off a dime-sized amount of my fingertip. So there's a reason to understand how many pain receptors and sensors you have in different parts of your body. And that's the nervous experiment. There's also one on air pollution. You can look at air pollution in your areas. There's a caterpillar experiment, which has already been done. All the data is already there. And what's the other one? Oh, ice, and how it melts and what happens to ice as it melts. Why is that important? What did we just see in Antarctica? A huge ice shelf just broke off and went into the ocean, the first one of this size that we've ever seen. So anyway, those are the 4 recommended projects that you can do, that you can start with. But there are others in that list. You could do something totally different. If you're thinking of doing something totally different, you need to be talking to me about that, because I've had students that came up with grandiose experiments to do. Okay, we're not going to be able to do that in a couple of weeks. That's just not going to work. I understand how this works, and that's not going to happen, because by week number 7, you have to have this turned in. And here we are at week number 1. So, okay. So if you're wanting to do something different, just let me know, and you and I will discuss it through email. Okay? Take a look at that. All right, where are you going to find your lab report forms? Not where you think you're going to find them. They're not in each individual lab. They're in one location. So here I've got it all mapped out for you. Look under course menu, the learning modules. Then under that, start here. Assignment guidelines and rubrics. You'll see that. And then there it is, lab reports zip. So it's a zip file. When you open it, all your lab report forms will be there. Okay? So you're going to need those. You're going to need 2 of them for this first week. And you have to turn in your lab reports in this format. You have to. And for one lab report, you have to have everything combined into one document. You can't put your 2 graphs as 2 separate documents along with the lab report. That's not how it works. I've got to have one thing to look at and to grade. So follow the instructions that are in that lab report. That will tell you exactly what you do. And make sure you put your name on it. A date would be awesome too. Okay? All right. So you're going to have fun with that. So what else do we have going on? I want to mention the scientific method for a second because I am a scientist. I've been a scientist for a very long time. And I want to mention how it works because, you've learned these steps before. Maybe last time you saw this was elementary school. I don't know. Maybe 7th grade, something like that. But science isn't as simple as this, okay? We'll just say that. All right. First of all, in the scientific method, you make an observation. And you find something that you're interested in. That's really important for scientists. You don't just do whatever somebody tells you to do. You find something that you're interested in. And if you go to graduate school, you find a professor that's doing this thing that you're interested in, and you work under him or her at that university, and you delve into science. So you make an observation, see something that's interesting, you have a question that comes to your mind, think, I sure would like to know more about that. The next part is very important. You do background research. And so, especially in science, you have to know everything that you can possibly get your hands on having to do with a subject. And you read and you read and you read and you read and, read more than that and talk with everybody that you know about this. So you conduct a tremendous amount of background research before you even get started, because you have to understand the biology behind this before you can ask a good question and even design an experiment. All right, construct a hypothesis. If this happens, then that's going to happen. You know how to do a hypothesis, make a hypothesis. Yes, you do that, okay? And then you design experiments, or one type of experiment. You design these and you do them over and over and over again. And a lot of the time in science labs, you do an experiment once and you think, voila, there's the answer. You would never do that in science. If you take a really good lab course, then you would replicate and have 3 replicates of an experiment. You still don't do that in science. You do the experiment over and over and over and over and over and over and over again to make sure that you get consistent results with this experimentation. So you test with experiments. All right. So then you've done this experiment 1,000 times. Then next you analyze the results. You have to do statistical analyses. You have to look at what's happening, try to figure out what's happening, try to be able to explain what is happening. You're going to have to do this because when you write this up, you're going to have to explain to your fellow scientists what you think happened. Draw your conclusions, reject or accept your hypothesis. Is that what happened with your experiment? And some of the most amazing scientific discoveries have come from experimentation where you reject your hypothesis. Something different happens from what you expect. And then you go on to try to figure out, well, what the heck is going on then? So you draw some conclusions. The next step is terribly important, and a lot of scientific method lists leave this out, but it's terribly important. You publish your work in a peer-reviewed journal, and you know what peers are, people who think like you, who do the same kind of research that you do. You publish your work in a journal. A journal is kind of like a magazine, but now all journals are online. So anyway, it's a compilation of different types of research that people have done over a certain period of time, and people with your same interest read these journals. Before you get published, you have to be reviewed, and this means that you have a set of editors, a set of colleagues, a set of your peers that take a look at your article before it's even accepted for publication, and they'll say, no, I don't see that. Something's wrong with this experiment. More statistics needs to be done, whatever. They'll make all kinds of comments about your work. And then you get a letter back that says, accepted for publication, which almost never happens the first time. accepted with some stipulations. You have to make some changes, you have to do some additional things, you have to change your wording, whatever, or completely reject it. Usually it's that number 2 option, because you've done enough work almost always in order to get this work done. So you go back and you revise and you change your publication, that your write-up that you've done, and you send it back in, and then it gets published. Okay, now it's out there for the world of science to see, and people will make comments. You know how it goes these days with social media, right? Everybody's got an opinion. Well, that happens in science and has been happening for a long time. But a lot of the time, because you work so hard on this and you really understand it, people say, okay, that's pretty cool. Other people will try to replicate what you've done. And if they don't get the same results, they definitely will tell about it. And this has happened to even some world famous scientists, that other scientists will check their work and they'll say, no, we did not get that. We don't get that consistently, and we don't think that that's what's going on. So your work has to be peer reviewed, and that's terribly important, because once it is, then that gives you credibility in the work that you've done, and it gives your work credibility. So it's a balance. It's a check and balance to this particular system of science. It's terribly important, and it makes science work. It keeps everyone honest. And, you know, even if you're not trying to be dishonest, maybe you made some mistakes or you could have done something differently. So you'll find that out when you get published. So that's really how the scientific method works. At the end of this, usually you send in this information in the form of a grant to some type of agency or some organization to see if you can get funding to continue your research to do more with this particular topic. So that's how science works. It's a little bit more complicated than just a simple little list of steps that you go down. Yeah, it doesn't work that easily. But it is awesome. Doing science is my favorite thing. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful week this week and get started on your labs. Let me know if you need anything. I'm going to put my email address absolutely everywhere. m.sigmon@snhu.edu. Let me know if you need any help. I'll be glad to help you answer any questions. Say you get stuck with Excel, because a lot of people do. Just let me know. Just let me know. And I may be making another little video, just a short little video, to show you some tips in Excel to help you with that graphing exercise. Okay, have a wonderful week, and let me know if you need anything.